Hello and welcome back, adventurers. Sit back, get comfy, and let us delve deep into the domain of Lamordia. Lamordia lies at the northwestern edge of the core, thrust up against the Sea of Sorrows. The realm's brutal weather, broken coastline, and sparse population lended the air of a borderland. The terrain suggests a natural division of the realm into the rugged east and lowland west. In the latter, the Musardi River, locally called Cobweb River, at last relinquishes its waters to the sea. By the way of the Musardi and the Wushar, Lamordia inherits refuse from the breath of Darkon and the Western Core. Consequentially, the Musardi is appallingly tainted by the time it reaches Western Lamordia's floodplains. The waters here are the color of strong tea and filthy with silt. The farmers and herders that populate the west had to grow accustomed to the septic odor. The Musardi splinters into a broad delta as it flows north to the Sea of Sorrows. Here, the coastal floodplains give way to the bleak heath of feathered tears, punctuated by stretches of fetid marsh. Trekking through this dismal, soggy landscape is torturous in the summer, especially with clouds of mosquitoes. Beyond the heath, a strip of coastal plain continues to creep towards. Gradually, the marshy shoreline rises up to become treacherous cliffs. Sea caves riddle the jagged coastline of the north, from flooded grottos to pirate heavens, high above the salt spray. Here, the waters of the Black River flow from the eastern uplands, slicing through the cliffs near Ludendorff to create a natural cove. Further north still, the shore begins to fragment into a string of islands as it approaches the jagged coast of Darkon. Known as the Finger, this chain reaches northwest into the Sea of Sorrows, dwindling from the forbidding Isle of Agony out to solitary spires of stone. The channels surrounding the Finger conceal a labyrinth of shoals, necessitating a long detour for sea-going vessels. In the winter, jagged ice floes create treacherous paths from the mainland to the islands. During low tide in the summer month, a causeway of black, brackish mud reportedly serves the same purpose. If one heeds foreign sailors, every island in the Finger harbors murderous buccaneers, spectres, or drowned whalers, and were creatures that swim in the ocean currents. The Isle of Agony is the most notorious island, for even the skeptical Lamordians are terrified of its boogeyman. The Finger terminates at the Demise, a desolate isle with a reputation as a doom for shipwrecked mariners. Winding, forested crags distinguish eastern Lamordia, a feature the locals refer to as a sleeping beast. The beast is less a mountain chain than a twisting span of rocky ridges, clad in a cloak of evergreens. Despite their modest height, the peaks shelter Neufurstenberg and Falkovnia beyond, from bitter north winds that assault most of Lamordia. Though the shadows of the beast conceal a host of natural predators, a substantial number of trappers, hunters, and miners eke out a solitary living in these hills. Lamordia's ruling family, the von Obraches, are said to prefer the seclusion and scenery of the beast to the comparative bustle of Ludendorff. The ancestral estate, Castle Obrache, lies stacked away on a splendid wooden crest in the northern beast. The settlements of Lamordia struck me as impeccably tidy places. The Lamordians cannot suffer a single spot of mud on a doorstep or a browning leaf in the garden. The typical Lamordian buildings rises 2 or 3 stories tall and constructed of heavy timbers and brick, and plastered over in a bright white or rich cream color. The forests of Lamordia are primarily coniferous, dotted with robust islands of hardwoods. The plains and heath of the west, meanwhile, feature a plethora of wind-blown herbs as well as berries. Intriguingly, Lamordia is a home to numerous plants that are toxic or overtly hostile to humans. Selected species, such as the blistercap mushroom, are valuable in the hands of a knowledgeable herbalist, as the spores of this fungus produce a crippling poison. Some plants, such as the bile thistle and saltzeer lichen, are notoriously noxious and best avoided. Others, such as the yellow musk creeper, are naturally aggressive and prey upon unwary travelers. Lamordia harbors all the creatures one would expect in a temperate land of diverse landscapes and weather extremes, all of them hunted for their pelts. During long Lamordian winters, predators are particularly fearless, attacking anyone close. Perhaps most worrisome to travelers are the wolverines, normally found in much colder climates. The woodsmen of the sleeping beast revile these creatures as voracious brutes. The undead and supernatural creatures that plague the other lands of the core are comparatively rare in Lamordia. Instead, a menagerie of oddities pose a real threat. Twisted, moaning things that were clearly once men or animals, and fantastic bears that display remarkable abilities. The locals insisted none of these bizarre creatures are truly supernatural, but indeed a scientific experiment. And to understand such a conviction, we need to look at Lamordia's past. Perhaps more than any other realm in the core, the frailties of false history become most apparent in Lamordia. The majority of its people proudly maintain that their land has a rich history stretching back centuries, but cannot name anything significant prior to 683 Barovian calendar, when the mists first revealed their realm. Which leads me to Victor Mordenheim, the only person in all of the domain to be universally known and feared. Victor is a gifted scientist and surgeon. At an early age, following his mother's passing, he became obsessed with the pursuit of knowledge. And shortly after graduation early from a medical university at the age of 21, Victor married Elise von Brandtroffen, the daughter of one of his teachers. Unfortunately, Mordenheim and his wife soon discovered that Elise was barren and could not bear children. Determined to cheat the hand that fate had dealt him, Mordenheim launched his research into resurrection, or, more properly, the creation of life. After 30 years of research, Mordenheim accomplished his goal, creating a monster from human flesh. On the night the creature first drew breath, the mists settled around Castle Mordenheim and drew it and all its inhabitants into the newly created Lamordia. Victor never noticed the change in scenery. Victor delighted in his creation, regarding Adam as a child he and Elise could never have, but Elise was repulsed. Adam did little to improve the situation, exhibiting a disturbing affection towards her. 2 years later, in an attempt to both appease Elise and provide Adam with a playmate, Mordenheim adopted a 7-year-old girl he found in the streets of Ludendorff. Victor named her Eva. Contrary to Victor's plan, Adam simply seemed to grow jealous of the attention Elise showered on the girl. One night, soon thereafter, Victor awakened to the sound of screams and rushed to Eva's bedchamber. The girl was missing, never again to be found. Mordenheim found his wife's crumpled, mangled body in a heap beside the bed. The monstrous Adam loomed over her, holding a bloody scrap of Eva's nightgown. With a furious roar, Adam bounded off the high balcony and disappeared into the night. Victor discovered that Elise was still clinging to life and managed to stabilize her. He now faces a new challenge, not to create the spark of life, but to preserve it. Mordenheim employs the same machines he used to create Adam to sustain Elise, and has started researching new methods to restore her to health. Thank you so much for your time, patient listeners. Lamordia is the land where it is hard to see who is the monster and who is the victim, so tread lightly. And as always, be careful while crossing the mists.